Download Festival 2025 was a special one. The 3 headline bands on the main stage all put on brilliant performances. The variety of bands available to watch, the broadness of the spectrum of genres was fantastic. The quality of the live performances generally across the board were very, very good. A couple exceptions along the way, we'll go through them in a moment. The weather was gorgeous for 95% of it. There was a bit of rain, but of course, I mean, it's Download. There's going to be a bit of rain, even when the forecast says there won't be. Incredible all-around experience. And a few personal notes of mine in my particular weekend that had some really mind-blowing things that happened along the way, which I will share in this video as I recap what that festival was like to be at and what the bands were doing, how they performed, what were the interesting, memorable moments and ridiculous moments that I was able to experience along the way. If you've enjoyed my content before, check to see if you've subscribed to the channel. You might not have. Please take a moment to do so now. It's free. Anyway, thank you for that. On with the video. So, Download Festival happens every year in June. It's a 3-day festival with amazing rock and metal, generally music, but also some other bits and pieces along the way. It's held in Donington in the UK. Usually, it rains a lot, but not this year. This year, you had to slather on the sunscreen so you didn't burn to a crisp, which actually was fine. You know, if you keep putting sunscreen on, you'll be fine. Unlike my friend Metalburb, who came all the way from Toronto, Canada, to experience his first ever download and his first ever festival experience, and he didn't put on sunscreen on the first day, so he got a little bit singed, but he had a marvelous time. Look forward to his video when he recaps with his experience as well on his channel soon, I'm sure. Now, before the main band start on the Friday, there are some Thursday activities for anyone that's camping, and I did see a couple of acts that were notable to mention. One was KoRn Noir. It's a choir that do basically covers of metal and rock things, such as Bring Me the Horizon. They do Architects and other bits and pieces. They did a wonderful performance. It was a nice way to kind of gently lean into the rock enjoyment, the live sets that would happen that weekend. And later on that day as well, one of the best sets of the weekend, genuinely, was by The Scratch. They're this Irish kind of folky, but rock metal adjacent band. They had pyrotechnics. They're in this big tent in the main village area where most people would be camping. They were phenomenal. They had a huge crowd. They had them in the palm of their hands the whole time. They had a wall of death at one point. It was incredible. The sound was great. The vibes were immaculate. It was a party. The performances were so good. It was genuinely one of the best sets of the festival. So good, in fact, that I went to see them again on the Friday. They were the first band on the second stage. And so this time, we had the sunshine because we weren't in a tent. And again, they just absolutely crushed. Brilliant band. So worth seeing live if you get the chance. And I was able to catch up with them afterwards as well. Because of my press access this time round, I was able to have some conversations with artists throughout the weekend, and they were lovely. And I was asking the drummer about his unique drumsticks that he uses on this sort of like trigger pad cajon, which he's built these sticks himself, in part with like gaffer tape and stuff. But it was really interesting to chat to him about that. Yeah, lovely dudes, did a great job. Well worth seeing The Scratch if you ever get the chance. I also got to catch a little bit of The Haunt. I did my best to catch bits and pieces of different bands throughout the weekend. So during the Scratches set, I also went and checked out the Dogtooth stage to see The Haunt. And they did a great job. The sound was very good for them. Good performance. Definitely ones to look out for. The Haunt are on my radar as a very, very good band. Good rock and roll. Well performed. I then went to see one of the bands I was looking forward to seeing download the most this weekend in Unpeople. I've seen them a couple times before. They're always very good live. I love their songs. They're so creative and yet catchy, sing-alongable, and they've got some great kind of heavier moments in it. It's a wonderful mix overall. They did a fantastic performance in the Avalanche stage, and they had a big crowd for it as well. So good. And in particular, very impressed by their guitarist Luke, who during the last song decided to crowd surf whilst playing guitar. I don't think I'd ever be brave enough to do that. That is a mad move. But it was incredible to see him just like playing along. He did an excellent job. There must have been a little bit of worry of like, please fucking don't drop me. And no one did. It all went well. But that was very cool. They absolutely crushed their set. So good. Do check them out if you get the chance to do so. They're only going to get bigger. They're fast on the rise and well deserved. Really, really good band. I then ran over to the Dogtooth stage to check out another favorite of mine that I was so keen to see for the very first time in Gore. This was their first time playing Download Festival. It's actually their first visit to the UK. They're a fairly new band, and I was a little bit curious at how it was going to go live, because on the recordings and on like live vocal performances, seems like Hayley, their singer, has an excellent voice. I love the songs generally, they're heavier ones for the most part, and I was so curious to see how it would translate live. Her vocals were one of the best of the weekend. I mean that genuinely. The ferociousness of the scream vocals were super powerful, and there's dynamic too within that. There's different kinds of screams she'll do, but the pipes, the belting moments were spine-tingling. Her vocals are insane live, and the band also looked like they had an absolute blast. I don't think they were expecting the size of the crowd that they ended up getting for their performance, and they totally smashed it. It was slick, it was energetic, it was fun, it was lighthearted in places in between songs. It was just marvelous. A really, really strong debut performance at Download Festival for Gore. Absolutely ones to watch as well. Sheer quality. They're doing great things. Then it was back into the blazing sunshine for the second stage to check out Northlane, another one of my absolute favorite bands. I can't believe how many of my favorite bands ended up playing this festival. It was like they booked them just for me. This lineup was fucking amazing. But yes, Northlane on the second stage, which for my money always has the best sound quality of the entire festival. I don't know how or why that is, but the open stage generally, I think, sounds better even than the main stage. So Northlane were brilliant on there, in part because they sounded fucking amazing, and they always do. They were loud as hell, which they always are, but they were great. There was a lot of moshing going on, a lot of dust clouds started to be kicked up because of the heat and the sun meant that you could pick out mosh pits from a distance at every stage. The dust cloud is exactly where people are running around and colliding into each other. I never go into mosh pits. I'm fragile. But it was nice to see them, and they did a wonderful job, Northlane did, with that mixture of electronics, vibiness, but also the heaviness, plenty of headbanging to go on, and yeah, super clean set, really good performance. It's just awesome. One of the best sets of the day and weekend, I would say. Yeah, Northlane are top tier, and they're going to go on to do bigger and better things, no doubt. They're fucking amazing. That was awesome. I managed to catch a little bit of Boston Manor on the way to the press area because they were playing on the main stage, so I could enjoy them at maximum volume as I walked through there. They sounded fucking great, and I heard one or two songs of theirs I'd recognized, so that was very cool to have that moment. But I was heading over to the press tent because I had an interview with Gore. That interview will be on this channel at some point in the next couple of days, is the hope there. Wonderful chat, that one. Really, really cool to have that moment there. So I had to go and run and do that, and then after them, I was super keen to check out Jimmy Eat World. Now, historically, Download is a very heavy, largely metal festival, but I think it's great that now and then they have sort of palate cleansers, breaths of fresh air during the day, like a Jimmy Eat World on the main stage. They were really enjoyable. I wouldn't say they put on one of the best shows of the weekend. They very much showed up with their guitars and drums, and they played their songs. But nostalgic as hell. Great vocals. They did it all very live in themselves. There were no kind of gimmicks to it. It was a rock band who were very experienced and played very well. And it was great to have moments of singing along to these huge fucking hits that they've got with the masses of crowds around us. So obviously, The Sweetness was a big favorite. Salt, Sweat, Sugar also. They played Futures, the song, which was a great surprise. I really love that song. And then The Middle, of course, was an absolute banger. So they did a great job. There was no real wow factor with it, but it was a solid performance from a very experienced, very good rock band that I really enjoyed. After them, even less wow factor was Weezer, who I was really stoked to see. I've been a big fan of Weezer for many years. They were the most sedate band of the weekend. They very much just stood there and played their songs. However, I did really, really enjoy it because the vibe that the band puts out, you end up sort of internalizing yourself. So with the sun out on this glorious Friday, with a beer in hand, listening to Weezer play some absolute classics. They opened with a Hash Pipe, which is amazing, but they'd play like the Sweater Song, which is a song from a long, long time ago, which was wonderful. They played Island in the Sun, and maybe that was the most glorious moment. Everyone's going, this is what, we're on a sunny day, we're relaxing in a field, with some beautiful tunes from Weezer. It was adorable. They were absolutely adorable. And it was, a wonderful vibe. I just wanted to sit in a hammock and enjoy them really. So, not the hardest rocking band in the world, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. It was a nice relaxing moment there with Weezer. Much respect due for them. And they did a good job of performing those songs. They performed very, very well. And then after that, it was time for the first of the big main stage headliners this year in Green Day. Green Day were actually the first band I ever went to a concert of. It was back in 2000, so 25 years ago. And I've seen them a couple times over the years since then, and they always deliver an incredible show. So this is the first time they've ever headlined Download Festival. And as much as I was looking forward to seeing Green Day, I was looking forward to seeing people see Green Day. Because a lot of these metalheads might have gone, Green Day, well, it's not that heavy, let's see what it's like. And I just knew they were going to deliver a very fucking professional, very good, very entertaining visual and sonic spectacle. And they absolutely did, as they always do. Billy Joe Armstrong was super engaging with the crowd. You know, maybe too many of the way-oh moments that Freddie Mercury has done. Green Day, I think, do that a little bit to death. But, you know, the crowd gets involved, and if you haven't seen them before, then that can be quite jolly. But opening with American Idiot and just doing a wonderful job of giving a variety of songs. They had a couple songs of their latest album called Saviors, which, were fine. But busting out the old classics was huge. I mean, Minority was a big one. Also, When I Come Around, Welcome to Paradise, of course, Basket Case got played. There were a couple of deeper cuts as well from like a very, very long time ago. Jar, I think they played. But yeah, there was pyrotechnics. In fact, there was one moment where they had these sprinkler embers falling from the sky. The stage, I guess, not the sky. Of course, that'd be odd if it came from the sky. That'd be a dangerous thing. It'd be apocalyptic. And one of them was broken. And it was pointing to the truss and the screen behind it, and it caught fire. And it stayed on fire for about 3 to 4 minutes, just burning away, a little ember. And every once in a while, some embers would fall to the stage. It's clearly some kind of rope that was on fire. Eventually, it went out, but you could see some concerned people at the side of the stage just looking up at it like, what do we do here? Thankfully, that did not end in disaster, but that was a little bit worrying for a moment. They played, I think it was during that point as well, they played all of Jesus of Suburbia. They played St. Jimmy as well. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. They just smacked a huge amount of hit songs that they have over the course of their set. And it was so fucking good. The sound was excellent for all of it. And then finishing on, of course, the classic song of Time of Your Life. Billy Joe Armstrong with the guitar. Amazing. A really cool moment. Having them be the first concert I ever went to now see them headline my favorite of all the festivals in Download. It was pretty special. They absolutely crushed it. And that seemed to be the consensus of anyone that saw their set as well. Green Day, top tier band live. And then on to the Saturday, which had a big gap on the first slot of the second stage. And the rumors were that maybe Trivium would show up and do a set. I'm not the biggest Trivium fan, but I'm always keen to see a kind of surprise set. So I went over to that stage, and after about 5 to 10 minutes of waiting, realized there's no secret band coming here. That was just a rumor. So there's just a gap. So I ran over to the main stage to check out Static Dress, who I think this might be the first time playing the main stage at Download Festival. They opened that up on the Saturday, and I thought it was okay. It was all right. I mean, they went all out in terms of they had some cool visuals to it. They had some pyrotechnics. They gave it their all. I love that it wasn't a bunch of, auto-tuned vocals, for example, but I thought on the flip side, the vocals were pretty rough. The clean vocals, I thought, weren't the best. And they also, the mic control, I just couldn't, I don't know if it was the mic control or whether it was the sound engineering, but it was quite hard to have the vocals translate. Their songs are quite chaotic as well, because they're kind of post-hardcore. There's a nostalgia to that, which I do enjoy, but it was fine, I'd say, as a performance. Not super polished. I'm sure they're not going for polished because of the kind of style of music they play, but I don't know. Unless you really know the songs very well, I think for a passerby, it would be kind of hard to be completely wowed by them compared to some of the other bands that are a bit more accessible, perhaps, or just do a bit more of a finessed performance. But respect to them, they did a good job for the show that they were attempting to put on, and they seemed to really enjoy themselves, and so it was a lovely thing to enjoy, but not my fave of the weekend, I would say. By contrast, after them was Loathe, who are chaotic as well in their own way, and very, very heavy and progressive, but they had a far better sonic performance for me. I thought they were fucking amazing, actually. Now, Loathe is a band that I'm more recently getting into. Kind of haven't been on that journey for a while, and they're getting better and better live. I saw them the first time in like a 500 cap venue in London many, many years ago. They were supporting, I think it was the Devil Wears Prada, and that was, you know, a bit rough, I think. But then at Gunnersbury Park last year with KoRn, way, way, way better. They're really getting it together. The live performance, the sound, everything is huge, massive and heavy, really, really good. And they smashed it at Download Festival, did a fantastic job. I think the stage was running a little bit late, so they ran out of time. They were hoping to do an additional song, which they didn't get to, it looked like. But the crowd was chanting for one more song, because it was a really, really good performance from them. After that, I had another interview lined up for that day with Jamie from Polaris. Again, stay tuned and do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and then you can watch that interview when it ends up on the channel. Really fun catch up with him. Polaris play later on in that day, which I'll get to as well. But after that interview, I then caught bits and pieces of Poppy's set on the main stage as I was running to and from other stages to catch some other acts I've not seen before. So I saw Poppy recently with Baby Metal, so I had other things I wanted to check out instead of her for the most part, but she sounded great. The scream vocals that she has are fucking incredible live. Incredible. Some of the best in the business, honestly. I do think there's way more autotune than I personally like on the clean vocal moments, so that kind of takes me out of it a little bit, to some of the humanities lost in there for me. But yeah, she's got a fucking huge crowd, you know, which was kind of expected. But yeah, Poppy seemed to do a grand job. I went to see Currents on the second stage, and the sound there was not optimal. They kind of very bassy. Some of the vocals were quite quiet and hard to sort of translate across the speakers there. So wanted to enjoy Currents. Sound-wise, it didn't really connect, which is unfortunate, especially given that stage usually sounds great, so not quite sure what happened there, but yeah, saw a bit of Currents, but it wasn't quite landing, so I ended up going to see LOLO, who was someone that on my download preview video, so before every download festival, I listened to every single band, and then I put those videos on YouTube, and I had loads of people coming up to me during that festival saying thanks for that, because they were able to check out some bands they'd never heard of before. But because of that, you can then go and understand what they're going to sound like and then see if you enjoy it live. So that's always worth doing. If you have time before a festival, listen to every band in the lineup, especially the ones you've never heard of before. That's the whole point. And then you can discover some new bands and not miss out on something that later on you go, fuck, if I knew they were playing, I would have loved to have seen them at that smaller stage, right? So always do that. So LOLO was one of the ones that I was curious to see, I think. Sounded pretty good on the records. Wasn't really expecting the live performance to be what it was. It was kind of like a pop-punk sort of performance, like a Taylor Acorn, but with a kind of Hannah Montana performance dance move-wise. It was very kind of cutesy, and I really liked the music. It was very catchy, but I don't necessarily connect with that kind of a performance. But fine, that's the choice. This is what they want to do. It was interesting to see their performance. Really liked the music, and they did a very professional job. But I saw a few of their songs. I was like, cool, I think I've got the gist of this. That was a very interesting thing to see. And then I went to see, I guess I saw some more of Poppy on the way to Holy Wars. That was it. They were another band that I was curious to see, having previewed them before the festival, and they are interesting. You know, they did a decent job. They were very energetic on stage and quite engaging with the audience, so a bit of performance there, which is much appreciated. Sounded pretty good overall. They seemed decent, so ones to kind of maybe look out for in future, but really, I needed a bit of time to go check out Polaris in their live set. They're one of my favorite bands, especially to see live. They also know how to get the entire crowd in the palm of their hands, like Scratch do, for example. And I thought it was amazing, but I knew it would be. Like, every time I've seen them, they've completely floored me with how kind of calmly relaxed they are, whilst also delivering absolute heaters of metalcore brilliance. And they had huge mosh pits, walls of death, all of that. They had great visuals, they had great engagement with the crowd, they were absolutely awesome, as expected. And they looked like they were having a good time doing it as well. Great selection of songs too. Some real highlights of songs I particularly enjoy. I think they opened with Nightmare, which is my favorite song of theirs. So it's just like, wow, we are locked in. They put on one of the best sets of the festival for me. So professional at this stage, very, very experienced, but also very human. It is not just like a professional show that doesn't feel like they're completely engaged in it themselves. You can see how much it means to them as they perform, and it was one of the highlights of the festival for me. Polaris on the second stage sounded and looked great. And then, to be honest, I was kind of keen to prepare my body for the sleep token that was to come. Like the fucking sunshine was so hard to deal with as an Irishman of my complexion that I think I had to grab some time in the shade after Polaris for a little bit and regenerate. And then the heavens opened and it absolutely pissed it down. And I thought, that's fine. A little bit of rain, it'll be all right. It's actually incredibly heavy rain. I had to bust out the rain jacket, which was a bit unfortunate. But glad I had it. Jesus. But the good news for Dayseeker was that because it was raining and they were in a tent, everyone flocked to see them at the Avalanche stage. Now, I'm sure most people there was, of course, there to see Dayseeker because they're a brilliant band. But when it rains at Download heavily, people flee to the nearest tent. And it's great because then more people can discover a band that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have. And Dayseeker's Avalanche stage tent was packed. 10 people deep outside the tent. So it's great to see. I saw a few songs of theirs. Sounded great. Rory's got fucking great live vocals. And they played Dream State early on, which is one of my absolute favorites of theirs. So really pleased to be able to enjoy some of Dayseeker. But I wanted to make sure that I was in the right spot to see the biggest band of the weekend in Sleep Token. So ran over to the main stage into this little nook, little spot in front of the sound desk to see Sleep Token and just take in that whole spectacle. Now this band is, in my view, one of the best bands on the planet for all kinds of reasons. Their songwriting, their technicality, their live performances, I just think they're brilliant. Having seen them for the first time ever in 2018 on the Dogtooth stage as this small, like, curiosity band. It's like, oh, they seem interesting. The live vocals are incredible. The live drummer is an absolute monster. Who is this band? And how do I follow their progress from here on? And to see them go from that to headlining the main stage of Download Festival was wild. It was so exciting, and I was kind of nervous for them. I really wanted it to go well. And they created, as Sleep Token do, they do things a little bit different. They were creating an atmosphere at the start by having the sound of wind playing through the speakers with this big black tarp covering the stage. You couldn't see the production. They kept that to moving the tarp, though, because it was really fucking windy. So you could peek bits of the stage before they came on, but that wind translating into them opening with the song Look to Windward, of course. And then you hear much of the song starting behind the curtain. One of them blew off because of the wind, which, though, it was windward, so it was like, well, all this eclipse in me. That's kind of, it was maybe the tarp was, it was eclipsed, it was half covered, half not. I don't know. It was not intentional. But then they dropped that when the full band comes in and revealed this mountain they'd built on the stage. Looked absolutely epic. At one point, it had a waterfall as well. 2 is in this sort of nook. I was lucky enough, actually, on the Sunday of Download Festival, I bumped into Tom Pike, the front of house sound engineer for Sleep Token. I was asking him, was it difficult miking up this drum kit? Because it's not wide open. You've got slight kind of the walls of the staging around it. And he said, yeah, like you wouldn't believe. You have to learn some new tricks in order to figure out how to make that sound good in that environment. So big ambition to put that staging together that they did. But they pulled it off. It all seemed to work pretty well. 3 especially seemed to thoroughly enjoy just kind of traipsing around the stage, going up and down the stairs, popping out of little pieces of the walls here and there. Very fun looking performance from him. Vessel's voice at the beginning sounded like he might have been nervous. I don't know. It's kind of, there's a timidness to it. Now, it's a quiet song to start, Windward, but I was concerned, like, but what, does he have the full power today? How's he going to do? But over the course of the set, they sounded better and better. The whole thing, the band, the sound, the Vessel's performance, they seemed to get more relaxed, start to enjoy it, and it was just enormous. There were so many moments in their heavier songs where I was thinking of people saying, yeah, but they're not really a metal band. I mean, you can look around and you've got tens of thousands of people moshing the fuck out of the heaviness that they have. Their heavy songs are heavier than some metal bands' heavy songs, in my opinion. they were totally appropriate as an act to be a headliner of Download Festival. Not that you have to be a metal band to do that, but absolutely slapped with the heaviness. Vessel's vocals were incredible. They got better and better as the performance went on, I thought. It was a total greatest hits performance in terms of the set list as well, picking songs from the latest Even in Arcadia album, also from Sundowning, from Tomb, and surprisingly later on in the set did Thread the Needle off of one of their earlier EPs. And that was beautiful. Because they weren't just going, right, we're this, successful band now, let's deliver the newer songs that most people know. It was also kind of harking back to, we're that same band, by the way, that you enjoyed playing those songs back in like 2018, for example. And here it is, with this huge production and light show on the main stage. It was quite a special thing to witness. They totally delivered. It was wonderful. And a surprise favorite for me of their live set was the song Caramel off the new album. That live is unbelievable. It's kind of this jaunty and then heavier later on song with a big catchy chorus on record. Live, it was the most engaging thing of the whole set for me. It was incredible. The chorus is huge. It gets so heavy towards the end. It was amazing. That for me was the peak, I think. Really, really exceptional. At one point, Vessel goes on the piano and busted out a bit of Halo. Little interlude. There were some small little winks here and there. They had a bit of fun with their set whilst also delivering a very, very professional show. They were incredible, as expected. So, yeah, absolutely one of the highlights of the weekend. Probably technically, I think, maybe the best set of the weekend, and deservingly so. I think Sleep Token have planted their flag firmly in the "we deserve to be here" mountain. It's a weird phrase I've come up with there, but they staked their claim on the headline set position at Download Festival and more than smashed it. I thought they were brilliant and a fantastic end to another incredible day. Then on to the Sunday, Bleed From Within performed on the main stage. Their first time playing the main stage of a normal Download Festival. They did play on the Pilot Festival in 2021, but it was a scaled down version. They were amazing then, so I fully expected them to be good here, and they were fucking incredible. It was so epic. Their visuals, they've always kind of flame visualizations, which made the whole set look like it was on fire. It's the most badass metal thing you could really think of to do. They had pyrotechnics. They are just full throttle, really, from start to finish. Fantastic performance, really good musicians all around. Songs really translated well, and they capped off their set by having a special moment with some Scottish drummers and bagpipes coming on to finish one of the songs. And it was a goosebump sort of moment. Absolutely epic. Bleed From Within were fucking excellent. Thoroughly enjoyed seeing them. And then later on that day, I had an interview with Scott from Bleed From Within, who was such a lovely, humble chap. Really enjoyed our conversation. That, again, will be on this channel at some point. If you haven't subscribed already, what are you doing? Do look out for that. That conversation was a complete joy. What a lovely dude. What a great fucking band they are. After Bleed From Within, I went to check out Vower at the Dogtooth stage. They're a band who are pretty new. I mean, they're formed from people from previous bands. They're not inexperienced, but this band's fairly new. They performed at Radar Festival last year, and I was so impressed by the wall of sound they created there. And they did the same thing at the Download Festival in the Dogtooth stand. It was spine-tingling. The hugeness of the sound they can create. The vocals are phenomenal from them in particular. It was just all-encompassing, their sound. It was kind of trance-like just watching them emit this hugeness of sound. A really incredible band. They're absolutely ones to look out for. If you get the opportunity to see them live, you have to. It's quite unique, actually. Their whole delivery, their demeanor, captivating, brilliant band in Vower. And then the day got really busy because there was a bunch of bands I wanted to see that were overlapping in set time. So I managed to circle around the second stage and catch a bit of Alien Ant Farm. The sound for them at the start wasn't great. You could basically hear vocals and some drums. Guitars were nowhere to be found, but they had a huge crowd. Absolutely enormous. It was hard to move around it. I was far away from the stage and it was packed. So they were probably one of the most popular bands of the weekend in terms of the audience size. So very cool for them because they're a great live band. They've got a fantastic catalog of songs. And yeah, always nice to see Alien Ant Farm and to see them get the attention that I think that they deserve. They're a fucking great band. So caught a bit of them before going to see House of Protection, who I knew would be one of the best sets of the weekend, and I was absolutely right in that. They sounded immaculate, but also they were the most ferociously energetic with the crowd. At one stage, Steven jumps into the crowd with his guitar and a mic stand and his mic, and he's performing a song whilst people are circle pitting around him in the dustiest part of the festival I'd ever experienced. It was hard to breathe. The air was so full of dust. But the dedication to creating something special and engaging the way he did and kind of connecting with the fans and just being like, I'm one of you as well, we're all in this together, it was fucking awesome. That was a real highlight. And my friend Metalburb, was seeing him bouncing along in the circle pit was quite fun. Again, I don't go into circle pits. Maybe one day, just for the sake of it, to see what it's like. But I just know it's not really for me. But that was incredible. They were so good. They, again, have the crowd completely wrapped around their fingers. And the songs translated amazingly well live. Arik is a beast on the drums. The vocals sounded fantastic. House of Protection completely ripped it up. That stage was too small for them. Like, they're just going to get bigger and better, and I can't wait to see them eventually on either second stage or main stage at Download. They're just exceptional. They really, really are. One of the best sets of the weekend. I then couldn't see the full set of House of Protection because I wanted to go and see the debut performance of President. So this is their first gig ever, not just their first gig at Download Festival. They've only got 2 songs they've released. And then they're here at Download Festival to kind of reveal themselves in a live context. So managed to wriggle my way into an absolutely massive crowd at the Dogtooth stage. It's the smallest stage, one of the most hyped bands. Absolutely was oversubscribed, that tent. So I found myself in there and was able to watch as the vocalist of, we all know who they are, the vocalist of President walking up the ramp in full head mask thing. It looked really fucking creepy in person, you know? Complete with the white gloves and the suit. This kind of somber, sort of melancholic, like the weight of the world is on them, figure marching up onto the stage, getting the mic, very nonchalant, with this kind of creepy presidential sort of fanfare music. And then they ripped into their second single of Fearless. And my concern going into this was, I don't really dig the vocal autotune stuff going on in the verses in particular, but also in some of the chorus work. So I was worried they're going to recreate that sound live, and it's going to be like ruining what is I know a great voice that this individual has. I was delighted that I did not detect levels of strong vocal effects on them. You could hear the main vocal there, and it was fucking great. This person's got such a good live voice. So I was delighted about that. It was not dripping in effects and annoying. It was a real human projection of excellence, and it was phenomenal, really was. Still not the biggest fan of the Fearless chant thing, but it made more sense when the crowd is shouting Fearless. It sounds way better than the kind of kiddie thing that's on this song normally. But I'm genuinely very impressed with the live sound of President, and I'm going to be seeing them play their debut concert, not festival appearance, in London pretty soon. I think next month they're playing at the Garage, so I'll be there to see the full set of them. So I'm very intrigued by that because I was very impressed. I thought that was pretty good. I'm excited to hear more from President, but I didn't see the whole set because on the main stage was Meshuggah. So I had to run over to Meshuggah to try and catch the end of their set. They sounded very technical, very precise. Also just fucking excellent headbanging. It was wonderful. Yeah, Meshuggah are fucking cool. So a couple moments of them as I went over to President and on the way out from them. Sadly, I missed the one song of theirs I really wanted to hear, which was Bleed. But President started late. I think that cost me seeing Bleed live, which was really sad. It is what it is. It's Download Festival. You can't see it all. You can only do your best. And I tried to see as many of the different pieces I wanted to see along the way, so it is what it is. But I caught the end of Meshuggah, and I was duly impressed. After them was Spiritbox on the main stage, and they're one of my favorite bands. I love their music. I've seen them a couple of times live already, so I knew that they were going to be good. In fact, recently I saw them at Alexandra Palace as a headline, and that was the moment I went, wow, they've really upped their production and their spectacle game at that show. And I was not in any way concerned that they will replicate that essentially at Download Festival. It was huge. And they had some cool visualizers that they were using overlaid onto the camera work, so sometimes the screens themselves looked like they were cracked and you see different versions of the members as they performed there. They were amazing. They sounded immaculate, as they always do. They're super fucking heavy live. Courtney's vocal performance was textbook, incredible. And there was one moment in their set in particular which was kind of mind-blowing in my own head, because they played Circle With Me, which is my favorite song of theirs, and that was the first song I ever did a reaction video to. It's the first video I ever made on this channel 4 plus years ago. So here I was 4 years later. The channel has got to the stage where I was able to go as press to check out this festival and interview bands and be part of it in that way, in a more official capacity. And it all started with Circle With Me by Spiritbox. So to be in that moment, watching them on the main stage, playing Circle With Me in this huge production, I just had a moment in my head going like, it was one of the most incredible weekends I've had, honestly. And it was kind of hard to take the whole thing in, but I had a little moment during there to reflect on like, this is wild. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I've had because of this channel. And just to reflect on where it started was a really special moment. And actually later on that day, at the end of when the music had all finished, I bumped into Mike Stringer, the guitarist from Spiritbox, along with Metalburb, and we hung out for a bit. We had a drink together and we chatted about the metal music scene and their band and all those bits and pieces. And I was able to tell him about that. Like, no, actually the first video I ever made was for Circle With Me. So it's this incredible full circle moment that happened that day at Download Festival, which was completely mind-blowing. And I think it's going to take me some time yet still to process it, but so lucky to have the chance to chat to Mike. He's a really, really friendly, lovely, conscientious, really interesting and funny individual. It was a great chat, and it was an incredible way to cap off what was just an exceptional... I'm not even finished talking about the live sets, but like that whole moment with Spiritbox was wonderful. And so yes, that was pretty incredible. Really, really enjoyed that. But the day was not done for live music. After them, I went to check out Unprocessed at the Dogtooth stage. They sounded incredible, which is actually pretty hard to do in the Dogtooth stage. It doesn't have the best sound generally over the weekend. So the sound engineer has to be top drawer to make that whole thing work. And oh, did they nail it. The vocals, arched over the top perfectly for both the vocalists. The sound was fantastic. It was super heavy. You could hear every fucking detail of the incredible guitar work that they were putting together. The snare drum, small point, the snare drum sounded so fucking good. Unprocessed smashed their set. They had a big crowd as well for them. Wonderful. Such a good band. Highly recommend seeing them live if you ever get the chance to do so. You will be wowed, but also the songs themselves are fantastic. The songwriting is good and it's technically brilliant. They are fabulous. They did a wonderful job. After them was Novelists, another band I'm a big fan of and have been exceptional live every time I've seen them. However, unfortunately, the sound for their set wasn't quite right for me. You could barely hear the vocals, which is always really tricky because that's the more human translatable part of a live sound. And for whatever reason, the vocals just were very quiet in the mix the whole time. I walked around the tent to find a different spot, and you could hear them, but they were kind of covered over by the rest of the sound. So that was a real shame, because Camille has an exceptional live vocal. The range of it, the screams and the cleans are fantastic. So that was a real shame. But they seem to have a good time doing it. They had a big crowd. The crowd seemed to enjoy it, regardless of the kind of sound issues there. The guitar work was phenomenal. So I loved seeing Novelists play Download Festival. I didn't love the way I was hearing Novelists at Download Festival. So I don't know what's happened there. Maybe there was some kind of volume restrictions or something going on at that time of day. Not sure, but that was a bit of a shame. But yeah, nice to see them, essentially, at Download. And then for me, there was one band left. There were other bands I would like to see, but I was fucking exhausted at this point of the weekend. So KoRn were the last band that I saw at Download Festival. They're one of the first heavy bands I ever enjoyed. At the age of, I think, 12 is when I discovered via my brother and his friend, the KoRn, this like insanely heavy, disturbing, and kind of strange music. And I put their self-titled album on a loop for like ever when I was a teenager. So I've enjoyed them live before at Download Festival. They're always very good. wonderful to see them in their rightful spot of headlining the main stage of Download Festival. They absolutely fucking smashed it. Opening with Blind was a brilliant choice. Like, that's the first song on their first record. So cool. And yeah, they know exactly what to do. They just did a fucking greatest hits. All the bangers. They have so many. They just rinsed through all of their bangers live there, the headliner, to close the festival. It was so fucking cool. It's some cool production, a billion lights on the stage, just flicking around all the time and moving here and there. The sound was immaculate. They were just a delight to see. Love the fact that KoRn finished off Download Festival in 2025. It really was a festival filled with like some of my absolute favorite bands. And for the most part, the sound was fantastic for all of them. For the most part, the performances were wonderful. And what I really love is that the great performances didn't just come from the huge big hitter headliners. They also came from some of the up-and-coming newer acts with a variety of different sounds. The rock music scene is in a really healthy state, and that festival was a wonderful billboard of that fact. It was fan-fucking-tastic. I absolutely loved the whole lineup of that. Congrats, well done to the booking team of Download Festival. It was my favorite lineup I think I've seen there. And it was so well put on. Everything was really smooth and seamless. There were a couple of moments where bands were a bit late. Who knows what the reasons were for that, but they were pretty rare actually. Yeah, it was wonderful. It helps, I'm sure, that there wasn't deluge of rain at all times, because that makes logistics much more difficult at these things. But yeah, everything went pretty well overall. It was great. And it was a really special experience for me in particular, because I've been to that festival every year since 2014. At least every year it's been on. Obviously 2020, there wasn't on, but the Download Pilot I did go to as well. So it's my yearly pilgrimage. I love this festival. It is a holiday for me. This is where I soak up all of the live music across 3 days and just get so much out of it, and love hanging out with my friends who we go every year together. But this year, I was there as press, which was a complete honor. And to be able to line up a couple of interviews was pretty fun. A little stressful at times. It's chaos in the press pen. You know, the booths where you can do interviews are first come, first serve. So sometimes we're like, right, they're all busy. Where can we do this interview? It was actually quite stressful and tricky at times. So we'll see what I might do in future in terms of those. But it was an honor to be at that stage with where the channels got to. And last year I got recognized by one person. And that was a wonderful, amazing moment. This year, I expected to have a few more people because the channel's grown in that time. What I didn't expect was that anytime I went anywhere, someone recognized me and stopped me for a chat, which was incredible. I was completely blown away. I wasn't really prepared for just how many people would say hi. It was, I don't know, 100, 200 people? It was absolutely insane, but wonderful, incredibly validating, you know, to know that what I'm doing here is translating and people are finding value in this. And so many people were thanking me for introducing them to bands that then they were seeing for the first time at the festival. Thanks to the preview videos that I do over here, or enjoying the podcast I do with Drew Fortune and Metal Burb with the Metal Roundup. You know, it was incredible. Everyone was so lovely. So thank you for stopping and saying hi. I handed out some badges. So if you got one of those badges, there's a few that enjoy that. There's only a few. Yeah, that was wonderful. That was absolutely incredible. Tricky at times because it meant that I was very slow getting between stages to see bands because I'd want to stop and chat and say hello to people. But it was a total honor to be in that position. So thank you for those who said hello. That was wonderful. I also got to chat to a bunch of musicians that I'm a big fan of. Caught up briefly with Unprocessed at one stage. Chatted to Kadeem from Loathe as well. Myself and Metal Burb had a little chat with him about their band, and he was a fucking lovely individual. I saw Grin. The lads in Grin were there for the day on Saturday, I think it was. So wonderful to meet them as well. It was just a joy. Yeah, I mean, you know, I was there in the press area, and Justin Hawkins from The Darkness is just there. Saw a bunch of people I'm a fan of. Will Ramos, he was in the press area at one point. I got a fist bump off of him. That was really cool. Yeah, incredible. absolutely amazing as an experience. So hugely grateful to the press team as well for all the help that they had. They were very accommodating. They did a wonderful job. As chaotic as the press thing is, it just kind of is that way because there's lots of people coming in at random moments to do interviews. So you can't really plan for a seamless way for that to happen for everybody. But they did a wonderful job with the logistical challenges that it did present. So thank you to everyone that was working at the Download Press team. Had a wonderful experience overall. Truly, truly did. And yeah, it was the most incredible experience because of the live music and everything else that went around it. I just adore that festival, and it was really special for me. But also I think special objectively in terms of the quality of the music, the range of acts, and how well those three headliners delivered their main stage performances. It was really something that I will remember for forever. So hopefully you enjoyed this and either lived vicariously through me for some of this, or if you were at the festival, got to see another perspective on some bands that you hopefully enjoyed there. That was, incredible. A really amazing experience. So I'm really looking forward to next year. I cannot wait to see what Download 2026 has in store. We don't know what the headliners are yet, but I'm going to make a prediction. I was chatting to my mates, like, who do you think it might be? We reckon Linkin Park, probably going to headline Download next year. Ghost, I think Ghost could be on for a headline spot at Download Festival. I think they've headlined the second stage. I think they could be a main stage headliner potentially as well. And for the third one, I don't know. I'd love to see Bill Murray headline, but he's not. He's not ready yet. But he will one day. You mark my words. One day, Bill Murray will headline Download Festival. I'm confident in that. But hopefully Bill Murray will play next year. That'd be fucking cool. But yeah, really difficult actually to coherently recap a festival experience such as that, but it was an absolute joy, and especially it was a joy to experience that with Metal Burb, flying all the way from Canada and speaking. It was his first festival experience ever, and it was awesome. So next year, Drew Fortune will hopefully come and join us as well, and then the full Metal Roundup will be there as well. So do check out actually the Metal Roundup podcast. There's a YouTube channel for that. Myself and Metal Burb have done a recap of each day on the festival site, except for the third day. We're going to do that soon as well. So we'll recap our thoughts in there, and then we'll fill Drew in on all the nuanced details, some of the conversations we have with the artists. We'll probably go through some of them. So make sure you check out and subscribe to the Metal Roundup podcast for that. But thank you for checking out this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and do subscribe if you want more things like this. I listen to new music and review it and analyze it. I do interviews as well for the podcast, and I go to live gigs and review them as well like this. So thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon.